Hey guys, today we're going to talk about defensive line play in our base defense. We have three defensive line positions, and they can be called one of two different things. Okay, so we're going to go through those very quickly. First and foremost, we could stay with a left and a right defensive end. Okay, just like a left and a right safety, or a left and a right outside linebacker, a left and a right inside linebacker. So we do that. We do that quite a bit. Where we just have a left end and a right end, okay? And then obviously a nose guard in the middle. But we can also change it up and just have a defensive tackle. These are things you guys don't need to memorize, but we would put the defensive tackle, he's always on the weak side. So thus, now these players can flip, and this defensive end will always go to the strong side of the offensive formation, and this D tackle will always go to the weak side of the offensive formation, rather than just staying left and right. We would do that because that way these kids can get really good at defeating certain plays of an opponent's offense. They see it over and over again. So that would be the reason why. First off, where is our alignment? Our alignment, it doesn't matter if we're playing ends or tackles or what have you, but our alignment is very simple, and it all comes down to this. This is a very generic football term. This is a very generic way of how defensive linemen line up, and you'll see this in any source of D-line play. So they have different techniques and different shades, and it's a numbering system. And it's a confusing numbering system, don't get me wrong, but this is just universal football talk. So when if the nose guard is head up of the center, he's in a zero technique. If the nose guard, as the numbers get bigger as you get further away from the center. So if you're inside shade of the guard, you're in a one technique. If you're outside shade of the guard, you're in what's called a three technique. If you're inside shade of the offensive tackle, you're in what's called a 4-eye. If you're outside shade of the offensive tackle, you're in a 5 technique. If you attach the tight end now you can get into a 7 technique, which is inside shade of the tight end, and a 9 technique, which is outside shade of the tight end. These are all universal football terms that you can see pretty much anywhere. So that's that. How we do it is we have our defensive end, or the strong side defensive end. He's in a 5 technique, and he is a strong C-gap player. The nose guard is in a strong 0, and he is always a strong A-gap player. Our D tackle is in a 4-eye on the weak side, and he's a weak B-gap player. And the same would go here. We'd line up inside shade, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's our basic alignment and gap responsibilities. I will say though, fellas, I absolutely love defensive line play. It's the first position group that I coached. And just love it, love it, love it, love defensive line play. And the biggest thing isn't necessarily knowledge of your basic how to become a great defensive lineman, or all these things here. First and foremost, your stance. And when you get into a stance, you want to get into a track stance. So imagine yourself basically running a 100-meter dash. You want to get in those blocks that you see those 100-meter dash runners run, in which your feet are staggered. Your dominant foot is way behind you. You then want to have 90% of your weight on your hand. And so you have basically everything going forward. You want to have this big first step coming out of the gates. You want to have a flat back in your stance. Nice. So you don't want to have your butt too high above your shoulders, but more importantly, you don't want your shoulders way much higher than your butt. You won't be able to get out of your stance in a nice low position. The technique of playing great D-line play is getting your hands in the right spot, so your hand placement. That hand placement is always going to be the inside arm right on the breastplate, and the outside arm working to get to the elbow or tricep, and you're working to get arm extension. And so you don't want him to touch your chest and touch your body. You want to be able to extend your arms, so now you can you're driving the bus, you're controlling him, and thus you can see what's happening. Where's the ball? And disengage and chase the ball. So that's our stance and our techniques. We're going to have another video in just a second here about keys and reads, because these 5 different blocks are very important in how you react. And then basically the important part of being a great defensive lineman are all these things here. So I wanted to cover in our first D-line play, or in our first D-line video, just some very basics here about our 3 guys up front, how you line up, and what you do. But in our next video, we'll talk very specific about what to do when lineman does something to you, and that offensive play is drawn out. Okay?
Did you see me waving?